So I decided to use and practice with her. And I still remember she got so upset that she said something like, "Do you want to be Mexican?" Let's walk. How do you say something like this in Spanish? It's actually quite simple. We're gonna dissect this phrase. But also, walking is such an essential activity in life. It will be super beneficial for you to understand a little bit more about the verb walk so that you can diversify understanding and be flexible, always being able to catch the variation of this phrase and words. Let's walk in Spanish is vamos a caminar. Vamos a caminar. Vamos a caminar literally means let's go for a walk. One option is just memorize this phrase and use it and practice it. And that is totally fine, but we could analyze this phrase a little bit more deep. So in the future, you would understand variation of this phrase and verbs and words. That way, your learning curve will be extremely shortened compared to memorizing a phrase and words one by one. Vamos a caminar. Caminar in this phrase is an infinitive form of the verb caminar, to walk. And vamos a is the phrase that direct translation will be we are going to. Vamos is a conjugated verb for first person plural present tense of the verb ir, to go. So in other words, it can be translated as let's. In this case, let's walk. As in this example, vamos a can take verb or noun after it. Let's take a look at it to see what else we could say using this phrase. In order to say let's do something, vamos a can take a verb in its infinitive form, like vamos a caminar. Here, another example will be vamos a comer. Let's eat. Comer is a verb in its infinitive form, meaning to eat. The phrase can also take noun. Let's see in this example. Vamos a la playa. La playa or la playa, meaning the beach, can also follow a phrase vamos a as a noun, as vamos is a conjugated form of ir, meaning to go, so the translation will be let's go to the beach. As I mentioned in the beginning, it is okay to just to memorize the phrase and words and everything. There are different type of people who understand things differently. So it is for our purpose to present as many as ways to understand for people to choose which one resonate with them. If you dissect vamos a caminar in the form of SVOC, subject, verb, object, and complement, the structure would look like this. Vamos is the verb of this sentence, but it also represents the subject. Spanish verb conjugates very specifically to its own subject. So oftentimes the subject is omitted because people understand who is the subject by conjugated form. In this case, vamos can only take nosotros as its subject, which is we. We go. A caminar is a complement in this case to support the verb vamos. A complement is a word, phrase, or clause that is necessary to complete the meaning of a given expression. So again, caminar is the infinitive form of the verb, meaning to walk. In Spanish, there are many ways to express the same thing, and in this case, caminar, to walk, there is another verb which also means to walk, exactly same meaning, which is andar. It's always good to introduce a new thing in the back of your head so that your brain can start processing the information. Let's dig in a little bit deeper into the verb caminar. When caminar is conjugated to camino, which means I walk. Like I mentioned before, the conjugated form of camino already suggests the subject is yo, I, so it means I walk. But of course, you can choose to say yo camino, and oftentimes people say that to emphasize yo, just like I walk. And Spanish language has a flexibility in word order, and they don't really have a right or wrong answer. So you could say camino yo also. Now, because the word order is more flexible, there is no way to identify whether it's affirmative or interrogative, a question. So the only way you can distinguish is the intonation, whether you go up or down at the end. Camino yo? Do I walk? In this case, the answer could be sí, tú caminas. Yes, you walk. Caminas, ending as, will be you walk. Again, caminas can only take tú as its subject, so you don't need to mention tú as a subject. But again, you could also say tú caminas to emphasize tú, or caminas tú. Caminamos means we walk. Caminamos ending amos can only take nosotros as a subject, so you don't need to mention nosotros as its subject. But if you choose to say, you could say nosotros caminamos as the entire sentence. Or you could flip it and say caminamos nosotros. Camináis. You guys walk. It is a second person plural. Camináis can only take vosotros as its subject, so you can omit it most of the time. Or you could choose to say vosotros camináis or camináis vosotros. Now, camináis is only used in Spain, except to some degree in Argentina. Most of other countries who speak Spanish would not use this vosotros. Just like in any other language, there are significant regional differences. Not only pronunciation, but also use of terminology. For example, most of the countries, Spanish-speaking country, call pool, swimming pool, as piscina. However, for example, Spain and Mexico will call pool alberca. Another example will be to speak. Most of the country use the verb hablar, but in Mexico they use platicar. I have a funny story with this. When I was learning Spanish, I always went to my coworker to practice, and she was from Colombia. She always responded in Spanish because she knew I was practicing Spanish. I always listened to Spanish radio, and one day I watched TV and it was Mexican soap opera. I wasn't aware it was Mexican, and I picked up the word platicar. So I decided to use and practice with her. And I still remember she got so upset that she said something like, "Do you want to be Mexican?" I had never used the word ever since. Now, don't get me wrong. I have so many Mexican friends and I love Mexico. And so does she. But like any other situations between other countries, like Korea and Japan, United States and Canada, there are certain kind of rival mentality. From the beginning of my journey, my only purpose was to get Colombian version of Spanish. As there are many differences between Spanish in different regions, if you are desiring to learn Spanish, which I believe you are because you are listening to this, I would recommend to choose one so you don't get confused and you will be able to communicate with the Spanish speaking people in other countries with that Spanish. Anyways, let's go back to the verb caminar, present verb conjugation, and look at it from the different angles. From the upper left, yo camino, tú caminas, él camina, nosotros caminamos, vosotros camináis, ellos caminan. As I mentioned before, Spanish verb conjugation will tell you pretty much who the subject are. Most of the time, you don't need to mention who the subject is. So, for example, camino, I walk. Caminas means you walk. Camina means either he, she, or formal version of you walk. Caminamos can only mean we walk. Camináis means you guys walk. And caminan means they walk. So let's review how the ending part will be conjugated for its specific subject, person. Yo camino. Tú tú caminas. Usted camina. Nosotros nosotros caminamos. Vosotros vosotros camináis. Ustedes ustedes caminan. Let's take a look at from another different angle. Camino, yo. Caminas, tú. Camina, usted. Camina, él. Camina, ella. Caminamos, nosotros. Camináis, vosotros. Caminan, ustedes. Caminan, ellos. Caminan, ellas. So now you know how to say let's walk. Use it tomorrow to your friends, your family, your significant others, or somebody who is important to you. It might become something very special, a brand new relationships, renewing relationships, and when that happens, let me know and let others know here to celebrate it together.